Good morning. So I got a couple of real life questions from friends on how I did this or what was my thinking. And then I was like, okay, it's gonna be I think it'll be fun to make it into a video. Apologies for the audio quality because I've never done this before and I don't really have much equipment to work with, but I hope you can just bear with me until things hopefully get better. So here we have this piece. Let's see if I can show you the whole thing. So this piece, I don't want to say it took long, or maybe it did. I'm not too sure because I tend to start, stop, start, stop, and it, or not even start, stop. I tend to do everything in one go, and I don't really notice uh, when the time goes. But here is the full thing. So we have this beautiful merman and a couple of fish and him looking at a flower, and then there's stuff in the back and rocks and stuff. So I really enjoyed making it because it's my first time for a piece to turn out like this. I don't know how to say it because I always think my style is changing. So this change I quite like. Obviously there's stuff that I needed to, obviously this isn't done, it's definitely not done. What is going on here with the light around the flower? I was supposed to put in arrays coming in to also make the lighting make a little bit more sense. Here is not cleaned up. The fish's anatomy I had to fix, the rocks. But you know what? From a distance it looks good because it's very, very dark. I think I was a bit inspired by Baroque and this one tutorial I saw on Red Note. It was a speed paint, but I was like, I'm gonna take what I can from the speed paint. I'm gonna try absorb it and see based on the flashings what layers they use, or how they're going about it, what type of colors. So we're gonna talk about all of that in this video. Well, not their tutorial because obviously I changed it a little bit to suit me, but we're gonna go through this piece together. Okay, so we started off with a sketch. So obviously the sketch is super, super rough, and I tend not to clean up my sketches depending on the situation, because each piece you're gonna approach it a little bit differently based on your needs, right? So I did a sketch, a really rough sketch, and then I just drew over it. And I found that doing a super rough sketch, almost to the point of scribbling, when I have to come back and clean it up, it's a lot easier because I'm not seriously bogged down by okay, this line has to go exactly here, this line has to go exactly there. So it was quite fun to do the sketch again. My fish's anatomy makes no sense. I think these fish are fine because you also don't see them, but these ones, big whoops. So I kind of, it's also my first time drawing rocks, so it probably doesn't make sense over there. But yeah, I just did a very quick sketch, very, very quick sketch. And then I try to refine the details of what, okay, if people are going to look at it, because most people look at other people's faces, right? It's not like when you see this, you're immediately going to look at the fish and be like, oh my gosh, that's a fish, and then look at this guy's face. I don't think that's how most of us work, unless the fish looks crazy and stands out. But I don't think the fish really does stand out too much in this piece. So that's why in my brain I'm like, okay, I have to figure out his face. Obviously it looks very blurry here, I'm sorry, because when I put this together, the quality got it destroyed. But anyway, so I try to flesh out the face as much as possible. The hands I did not quite care about in that moment, because I was like, okay, if you're gonna, they look like hands, so I think that's good enough right now. The anatomy, honestly, I've been enjoying drawing men, so I quite like the anatomy right now. Obviously there were things I didn't totally understand. Over here I wanted to put the deltoids, and I was like, Joy, that doesn't make sense because his arms are stretched out forward, and then we also have a little bit of perspective going on here, so it wouldn't make sense. So let's put it back behind his head. The flower, I was genuinely struggling to draw what I had in mind. I had this in mind, right? But when I was sketching, sorry about that. when I was sketching, it just couldn't come to me like how I was supposed to draw the flower. So I just left it like that. Um, and then also I checked the composition. So how do I explain this? So we have a lot going on this side of the canvas. Like I wish I did a little bit more in terms of making the side busier, like put in some lily pads or like flowers or seaweed or something on this side to make it a little bit more busy so we can have a nice contrast, and it can also feel, with the composition, it feels a bit more balanced. So we have like all the heavy stuff on this side on the ground, and then we have all the light stuff up here. But if you want to create a chaotic scene, I would suggest put like a lot here and then a little bit on the ground. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my brain it's like it makes sense. So when you have like a lot going on this side, it feels grounded, it feels busy but balanced. But if you have a lot going on the upper corner, that's not necessarily towards the ground. If you have a lot going on, it's chaotic and still balanced, if that makes sense. So I also have like this triangle thing going on, but I kind of regret having it because, again, I wanted to put stuff. I think I should have put stuff in this area. So, yes, so we went from here to here very quickly. Obviously, okay, this is the same scene, but it was just me checking to see if the composition makes a little bit of sense, or is even aesthetically pleasing in some capacity. There are some, I do try to avoid like center compositions. I'm really a big fan of like the thirds rule, right? I'm a super big fan of the thirds rule. But at this point, you can see it as like a center composition, and having it like more busy on this side and having a little bit going on that side, nothing, sorry, going on this side. So yes, I just did a quick sketch. I fleshed out the details, so I like sketched cleanly on top on a new layer, I think. You can do it on the same layer, it doesn't really matter. As long as you know, or you can see like the detail areas, the areas that you want people to look at are like fleshed out and clean and whatever. Especially if you're dealing with something as complex as the human face, because like the flower, I kind of freestyled. I kind of freestyled the flower. So from here to here, flesh out the details. I just check the composition because, again, now this sketch is super rough, and I did it on a whim for fun. So obviously nothing is going to be serious. Nothing is ever that serious. So I just checked if it made sense, and I was just going to lasso tool and move things around if it didn't. But yes, that's what we have from here to here. So step 1, and then we'll just call this step 2. Now for step 3, it gets very dark very quickly, and that's because I put obviously I put the colors. When it comes to the colors, actually I was super proud of myself because I don't think I've ever used such saturated colors out the gate before, such as like his tail and the fish. The skin is a bit more saturated than what I would normally do, and the hair is also quite saturated. And then I also have like very, very dark green going on in the back, and then obviously you can see the green for the plants and whatever. And also I've noticed when you use primary colors, I don't know why, it hits different. Like the blues, the yellows, and the reds, honestly so striking to look at. I was very proud of using these colors, because in the past, I think, actually I'm not too sure, but like for some reason this really stood out to me, the colors I used here. So I was very proud of that. Again, I tried to follow I think I just lassoed everything, and I put the background colors on one layer and the merman and his two fish over here on one layer. Also, when it comes to drawing the rocks, I think I mentioned this earlier, it still looks like nothing yet. It still looks like nothing, but maybe we'll talk about it here, how I thought of the rocks, or here rather. No, actually, let's talk about it here. So when it came to drawing the rocks, so again, it's my first time drawing the rocks, and I was like, okay, how do I best approach this? So since rocks are 3D objects, I was I was thinking let's draw a 3D object. So very faintly, I don't know if you can see, but like I drew like literal boxes. So this one you can clearly see was a literal box. This was a box as well, but a chunk taken out of it. This one is clearly just straight up boxes. This one was a really big box. So I just straight up drew boxes. Why I didn't draw spheres is because taking chunks out of the sphere wouldn't, I think I would have found that a little bit difficult, especially at my skill level. But like shaving off the side, like tapering the edges felt a little bit more easier to do for me. So yes, and the type of colors I use, obviously being saturated, I would think if this guy was in mid light, like not super bright, not super dark, what type or like what colors would come off of him, especially since we're doing a very dark scene, as you saw. What type of colors, if that light was shone on him, would I see? So I chose these ones. How I got them to like harmonize, I don't think they harmonize well, but when I render, I force them to harmonize because a lot of bounce light will come in and a lot of normal lighting will come in and subsurface scattering. So yes, I just put down my flat colors. Oh, you know what I'm noticing now? I did not. Did I fix it? Yes, I didn't. I didn't color his fin yellow. Or did I? I don't remember. Anyway, um, so yeah, and I do remember the tail. I did remember the tail, but like it kind of fades in the dark. That's why I didn't fully color it in. So yes, this is what we have for the flat layer, color layer, back flat color layer, whatever you want to call it, background colors. Yeah. So now on this side, obviously now it feels like a drastic change between this and this scene. For here, I put in shadows and like some other colors, like color variation to make things look a bit more natural and a bit more glowy. So I put in the shadows. So my thinking was to have the light come in a little bit more vertical than I initially thought I was gonna do. Now, all of these things that I'm thinking, okay, keep in mind, all these thoughts are coming in so fast because I'm not one to like really sit down for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours unless like it's my first, unless it's like a high school final or something to do art. Like I need to see the results now type of girly. That's why from here to here could probably take like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, but then this part could take like an hour. So in total, it's like an hour, 30 minutes, especially if you have nothing to do for the day, which I tend, oh, well, I should be studying, but oh, well. So I put in the shadows and my thought was to have the lights, and my thinking was to have the light come in a bit more vertical than I wanted. Because I remember in the moment thinking, I want the light to like come from here. But if I wanted the light to come from here, my physics classes, if you remember your physics classes, the shadow would have ended up longer than what I actually would have wanted. So I made it a little bit more vertical. That's why you don't see much of this rock. You don't see much of anything actually. A lot of everything is in shadow. And then when it comes to adding like the extra colors, I make sure they're super saturated because it adds like such a glowy effect. And that glowy effect being subsurface scattering. So when you have lights, all right, there we go. When you have light hit a almost well, not transparent because then you wouldn't really get subsurface scattering, but an opaque-ish object like skin, light will come in and like bounce, bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce before it leaves, which causes this environment to like glow. So wherever you have the edges where you have the light hit, those are gonna glow the most. Like yeah, it's gonna glow. It's literally gonna look so juicy. But Obviously, the shadows and whatnot don't have to look super realistic because, again, this is not a realistic style. Oh, where did he go? This is not a realistic style, but it just has to look believable. So I also added like saturations here and here to add like a bit more color variety. Obviously, it doesn't look like the rocks are glowing, but it just adds a bit more color. It looks nice. Also tried here with the water because you're gonna, since this water does reflect light, I haven't fully added it in yet. Why do I keep getting rid of this thing? So yeah, you'll see later, and don't zoom in too much otherwise you'll see how it actually looks. Okay, so yeah, this step super quick as well. I also put on like the little fishies. I'm so proud of these little fishies in the back. I don't know why. And the rocks specifically. And then the flower later on. Actually, I'm just proud of this piece. For how quick it was and for the fact that it looks so different from what or how I usually draw. And then after that, we just add in the colors. We also added a little bit of blue. I don't know why blue. I think I should have used a little bit of green. Granted, you can't see that this was green now that I added like shadows and stuff, but it your bounce light will also have like the environment color in it. So since this is mainly green, I should have added like green here instead of blue, but I think the blue makes it look nice, especially with how warm him and his fish are. It just makes it, I think, a bit more cooler, especially now when I added the glowiness. So yeah, there's not much to talk about this piece. They probably should, because like lighting and shadow is super important, and from a distance, if we just zoom out at this point, again, because my sketch is super messy and I don't really clean it up, but you can see that all of this, like these 3 steps, all basically look the same from a distance. From a distance. A distance. Yeah, they all basically look the same. So now, and I still haven't fixed this. Why did I forget? Anyway, when I mean this piece isn't serious, like this fish anatomy is atrocious. At least we can make out that they're fish from context, but if they were in any other situation, it would people would think I'm crazy for drawing my fish like this. Anyway, moving on. Now the rendering step, my favorite step and the longest. It'll probably 30 minutes to an hour, 2 hours, depending on how detailed you want to go, depending on how much fun you want to have. This step usually takes the longest for me because I zoom through 1, 2, 3, and 4. I really just zoom through them to get to this step because it's fun. It's fun. Now when like people come up to you and you're like, oh my gosh, are you drawing? Then you go, yes, I am. And it's like coming together, and then they look at it and they go, okay. anyway, so you see, I changed the flower because I was like, okay, I know what shape I want in my head, but when it came to drawing it, I don't know why my fingers and my brain were not correlating, but I just put down like colors until I made it make sense. I added a bit more like redness for like the subsurface scattering on this character. I'm also blending things in. I'm just rendering, man. This is like the most fun part. Like the rocks are coming together. It's actually just such a vibe. Put in music. It's actually this whole piece is a vibe. It's not that serious, but the hair, I'm actually so proud of the hair. You don't understand, because like when it comes to me and hair, I don't know why I can't draw nor color in hair, but this time I think I low-key kind of snapped with it. Like, who is she? Who is she? I did the hair. No, if I have to show you hair, like how I used to paint hair in 2020 when I was so new to digital art, you were actually going to make fun of me. The way I drew hair was so bad. Not even draw, like render as well. It was abomination. But yeah, this is when I start remembering, well, when I start fixing the tail, making it blend into the darkness, and we start rendering and adding like the reflections and the rocks. I'm just so proud of these rocks. Look how 3D these rocks are becoming. And then we add a bit of foliage in the corners, in the flower. Again, if I'm still not done with this piece even at this stage, but you know what? I think it's good enough to show it to the world at this point. But yeah, we try to get rid of like those black lines. And how I get rid of them is like, okay, I just want a little bit. Since we have the shadows establishing the form, those lines don't necessarily have to fully be there, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if that is good advice, but it just shows like, okay, yeah, he has a muscle there, but it's not like I want to render out the full form of that particular muscle. That's why I leave like little like dark patches to be like, okay, that's a demarcation of a muscle there. Don't ask me about the elbow, because now that I'm looking at it, it does not look like an elbow, especially now that I take anatomy and stuff. That does not look like an elbow. Also render in like the bounce lights and like the other colors. Still the bounce lights. Yeah, so what when I use brushes, I don't do I use any fancy brushes? No, I tend to like, well, I made one brush, but it was just so I can get flat colors down faster, without having to use the lasso tool as much. But like the round brush or the flat square whatever brush works all the same. I don't think I used a single textured brush for this. I probably should if I wanted it a bit more like, I don't know, if I just wanted to use a texture brush, I should have, but I didn't. So yeah, it's just rendering, man. Rendering, like adding highlights. And honestly, unless they're super bright highlights, render however you want to. Like, obviously it has to be layered. So when I did the hair, I put in like dark, the dark, like not the brightest highlights. So I just put in like a lighter blue and then a lighter blue and then a lighter blue. But I did the hair. No one's gonna tell me, oh, you should start with the skin, or you should start with the hand, or you should start with the fish, or no, just do whatever makes you feel happy. Because I feel like whenever I force myself to do in a logical order, to do this in a logical order, it takes the fun out of it, man. It really does. So I just did whatever I felt like doing at the time. And then when we get to this part, it's basically almost done. It's basically almost done. The only difference here, actually, you can see is like the flower. No, it's not even basically almost done. It is done. So I added in more highlights, more juicy highlights. The earring, I don't even think the earring should be able to glint like that, remembering like the lighting. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be believable enough. I added a bit more like reflections by the fish, not reflections, ripples. Yeah, light reflections from the ripples. I'm still not gonna clean this up. I'm way too lazy for that, and it looks super complicated. Well, not complicated, but it will take me at least 20 minutes when I could spend 20 minutes getting to this point in another painting. So, and here is the whole quote unquote finished piece. I may come back to it at a later point in my life, year, or whatever, because this is not done. The fish still need help. They are fighting for survival. This also needs to be done. But when you look at it as a whole, it looks pretty good. Like, yeah, this, either it needs to glow a lot more and make a little bit more sense, or I just need to bring the dark in and finish it. But the flower actually looks quite good. I'm actually proud of that. His hair I'm not gonna touch because I'm actually so proud. Maybe I'll fix like here, but these are like, you really don't see them when you zoom out. You really don't see these issues that much when you zoom out. Besides the fish, I don't know why the fish actually are bothering me. Maybe I should. But yes, that is it. That is my attempt at a walkthrough. It'll get better, I promise. It will get better, and maybe the art will also get better. But yeah, this is how I did the piece, or what I was thinking. At least those like 7 second, 0.25 second thoughts that popped into my head as I was mindlessly scribbling on a canvas. But yes, make sure you drink water. Say make sure you drink water, say please and thank you to people, and I'll probably see you sometime next time if I do something, if I paint something different. But yes, it was fun talking to you. Goodbye.